What's up, you guys? My name's Alex. This is my 97 3000GT VR4 twin turbo. I bought it in 2015. It was a gift to myself when I graduated college. It's been through several different variations. The story on how I got it was actually super sketchy. I actually had to make sure it wasn't stolen. I actually found it on Craigslist. And so I hit up my buddy. I was like, hey man, I want to go check out this car. You mind like being late for class? He's like, yeah, I'm down. So we drove like that 4-hour drive down to Calexico and went and saw it, and it looked really good. Like, it was kind of a sketchy, the story behind it. The guy had told me that it was his brother's car, but his brother was in Iraq and he got injured, so he had drop foot on his left foot, so he couldn't actually hit the clutch anymore. So he gave his brother the car to like try to sell, but his brother lived in Arizona. And I mean, it seemed like kind of sketchy, but like I was like, oh, whatever. I actually ran the VIN through the police department. They said, yeah, no, it's fine. I was like, cool. So we ended up making a deal, and I drove home the car, and here it is. I've had it about almost 10 years. So it'll be 10 years, January next year. I've been in a car since I came out the womb, pretty much. I was always into like Hot Wheels and stuff. When I got my first Power Wheels, I was like 3 years old, and my dad came home one day and I had it all torn apart in the driveway, and he was all pissed. He's like, you better get that back together. I was maybe like 4 or 5 years old. Put it back together and it worked. And I was always into just all the movie cars when I was a kid. Vanishing Point, which is like the old school stuff. Gone in 60 Seconds, Back to the Future. Like I got all Back to the Future stuff. My first car was a 92 Dodge Stealth RT NA. And that's like, I always knew I wanted the 3000 just because when I was really young, it was like in the late 90s, my grandfather had a buddy who was a doctor, and we went to his house one day and he had a bright red 98 VR4 with tan interior, and he took me for a ride in it, and I was like, this is the craziest thing. Like, you could have like shown me like a Viper or like a Ferrari or anything, but for some reason that car just like spoke to me. I think I was like 10 or 11 years old, something like that. But dude, that was it. Like, I loved that car. I didn't know what I was getting myself into though. So my Stealth was amazing. That car, I commuted it like 45 minutes to college, like every day for like 4 years. And then I daily drove it all the time. I drove it down here from like up north. When I finally sold that car, it had 238,000 miles on it. The only thing I ever did on it was a clutch and timing. That car was freaking amazing. And of course, when I sold it, I was like regretting it. So then my next car was a 92 VR4, and I was like, ooh, the VR4, hell yeah, I'm finally in it. It was from Minnesota. It was rusted to hell. It was terrible. Saw it on Craigslist. Some dude was selling it for pretty cheap. It was like 3,000 bucks, and the body was straight. It had the VR4 spider wheels on it. And I was like, oh, that looks cool. And like you couldn't really tell with all the rust and stuff, but when I saw it, I went in person and I brought my buddy with me, and I was looking at it, and of the excitement of like having it, I was like, oh, it's not that much rust. It was bad, dude. Every single bolt broke off on the suspension, doing the timing on it, because I did snap a timing belt on that car, but thankfully it didn't mess anything up, because I ended up doing timing after that, and it was good. But if you don't modify them, they can be great. Like, they're not a bad car. Like, if you just pretty much leave it stock, just make it breathe a little bit better, intake, exhaust, just like little bolt-ons here and there, but keep stock turbos, stop fuel. Like, I think they can be decently reliable. I mean, obviously you have to have a good foundation. You can't have a car that was like beat on, or like in the freaking Northeast, like where it's just rusty. Like, you just have to get a solid foundation. But once you get like a good car, it's easy to keep them reliable. My mother ended up putting that thing around a tree, and it was probably, she was okay, like no big deal. But that was like the best thing that ever happened, was like that car getting put out of its misery, because I would have dumped way too much money into it. I would have absolutely probably hated cars after working on that thing. Like, I was happy to see it gone. I learned a little bit with friends. My buddy had a dad who was into like hot rods, and he had a welder and like a fab table and stuff like that. And when we were like 12, 13 years old, we really started like working on cars. I have my first truck. This is my 82 Chevy Silverado. I rebuilt that entire truck when I was like 19, but I was like already building it when I was like 15, 16. That's when I got it. And just, I don't know, kind of escalated from there. YouTube was money. Oh, it sucks. It's terrible. It's, especially in a stock format, Like there's no room. Like it used to take me like probably 3 to 4 hours to get the intake manifold off. Now that everything's deleted and I have everything kind of tucked away and nice, it's like 20 minutes. Just, it sucks because every time I take the manifold off, I have to change out the metal gaskets. Don't do it. Get something different. To be honest, like if they want a car, they want to mod and do a lot of work to, I wouldn't suggest the car. The parts are becoming so hard to get. Like even the OEM oil pumps, if they're new, they're over $1,000 right now. It's really hard to find parts. I've literally collected so many parts and I actually have to start selling a lot of them because I just got my S15 Spec R and now everything's going into that car. I just made a big order from Japan for a lot of stuff. IKEA formula, control arms for the rear, full set. And then I got the Recaro rails for that. Probably gonna be picking up the TEs for it next weekend. We're gonna be running BCs on that car, the DS. But yeah, this car is gonna be sad, but I'll still drive her a lot. The thing is for this car is they're just becoming so rare now and finding a stock one is like almost impossible. I've seen more stock 99 VR4s than I have anything else. I think they're gonna become a lot more popular. Like even in the last like 5 years, they become more popular, more expensive. Like I remember you can like pick up this car for like 6 grand, 8 grand, and now they're like upwards of like 30 grand for like a good one. And I think that they're becoming like the last affordable like Japanese JDM like supercar. So I think they'll be worth more and more. But obviously if they're heavily modified, it might hurt the value a little bit, but I don't ever plan on selling this car. It's literally tattooed on me. So not finished, but yeah, definitely least popular, but I think 90% of it is just working on the car. Like it's not easy. It's a V6 dual overhead cam. It's got 4 cams, 2 turbos, it's transverse, it's all-wheel drive, transfer case, more stuff to brake. These are all-wheel steering, so that's more stuff to brake. It's heavier. I've got this car down, it was at 3,700 pounds when I got it, and it's at like 3,450 right now. But that's still with the hood, so I still need to get a carbon fiber hood. But I've definitely cut a decent amount of weight out of it. It's iron block, so it's super freaking heavy. But as far as working on like GTRs and Supras and all those inline 6 rear-wheel drive inline cars, easy. Like my S15, I'm so excited to work on that car because it's a 4-cylinder, it's inline, it's rear-wheel drive, and it's 1 turbo. I'm so happy. This car, working on this car, has like opened my mind for a lot of stuff. This is actually the first like engine build I've ever done from the ground up. Like everything else I kind of slapped together. When I built my square body, like I didn't know what a torque spec was. I was like, good and tight. First thing was first I had to fix the head gasket. It already had the exhaust, so it sounded good. It had the SAFC, but it wasn't tuned. I had a friend help me tune it and get it running well. I got bigger injectors, and then I got the 320 AAM fuel pump for E85. Full fuel system from Ninja Performance. And let's see, I got rid of the mass airflow translator and the GM mass airflow sensor, and I got the AEM Series 2 standalone on speed density. So I got it tuned on E85. Still all the stock turbos, so it was running strong. I started cleaning things up, deleting cruise control, deleting a lot of stuff. EGR was still there, so I deleted a lot of that stuff, just all the stock emission stuff for the most part. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that on camera, but you probably edit that out. But yeah, so after that, then it was kind of maxed out at the stock setup. And so then I ended up throwing in a set of Dynamic Racing DR650 turbos. And let's see, it was on a stock clutch still. And I had forged wastegates, and then I had it tuned on that setup, and it made just shy of like 500 wheel horsepower. It was like 485, somewhere around there. It makes it way more nimble. Like it just, obviously when it's slow, the steering is still heavy, but it feels heavy, but like with the power, it makes it a lot more nimble. But also in the back of your mind, you're like, it's just a matter of time before it's not gonna want to do this anymore. was down for 4 years. I went to SEMA in 2019. I drove it out there, did fine, everything was great. And then I had driven from Vegas after SEMA to Laughlin to hang out with some friends for my birthday. And when I was driving back from Laughlin, I was like 80 miles from home and freaking cracked a piston, had ringland failure, died on the freeway. I had to get it towed home and I tore it apart. And my number three piston had ringland failure, it cracked off the top, and then my cylinder 5 had stress cracks in it. So I think it was the methanol, because when I moved up north, I didn't have E85. I didn't have access to it, and the closest station was like 100 miles away. So I just went on the 91.2 with methanol injection, and it was risky. I was at like 22, 24 PSI. And I think one of my injector nozzles failed on the methanol. It got clogged, something happened, and yep. For the first 2 years it was down. I was collecting parts here and there and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I ended up buying a lot of stuff, but then adult stuff happened. I ended up taking the money that I had saved and bought a house. And then my dog Jax, he had gotten sick, he had cancer, so I put everything into him for a year, trying to like get him going and getting him good. And I just didn't have time or money for the car. Everything was going towards the dog. And so after he passed, a year after his diagnosis, I don't know, I kind of like went stagnant for a few months, and then I just started going heavy into the car. So from basically no engine in the car, like just a bare block on the engine stand, I had it built and running again in about a year and a half. All right, so it is actually a 1G block 2-bolt main with an ARP main stud kit. It has JE pistons, BC rods, forged 2G crank. It has like stage 1 heads with Brian Crowler high rev valve springs and titanium retainers. The heads were brand new, never used, from Mitsubishi. I think I got the last set ever. And it has a Tanabe exhaust, the downpipe back, and then it has IPS TD05 manifold kit with the 16G TD05s. It's on AEM standalone series 2 with AEM methanol injection at 2,000 cc's. It's running ID 1000 injectors, currently with a AEM 320 fuel pump. Before I go to the tuner, I'm gonna upgrade to 1600 cc injectors, get dual 450s, and then I'm gonna upgrade my fuel lines to a -8 for the feed, and then I'm just gonna use the stock feed for the return, so that I'll be good on fuel. Spec stage 4 plus unsprung full face clutch, PST hybrid aluminum drive shaft, Euro 3S billet carrier bearing, Tane coilovers that have been on the car probably 14 years and they're still amazing. Forged Rota P45R wheels on an 18.95 plus 35, hand cooked Ventus V12 tires, 265 3518. Drilled and slotted rotors, stock 2G brakes that are refreshed, powder coated black, HP pads, full AEM gauge setup. It has all the dash gauges are changed out. Got the A-pillar that has the 3 gauges, Grady steering wheel, Recaro SR3 seats, battery relocated to the trunk. It has an Optima yellow top running 0 gauge OFC all the way. Oh yeah, so it actually has an original 99 combat wing. These aren't really easy to find, and normally if you have an original OEM 99 wing, it means a 99 VR4 sacrificed its life, and that's what happened with this car. So 99 VR4 was in an accident and donated its wing to my car, and there it is, and she's real. Front has a 99 or 97 bumper. It has the ETS front mount intercooler, 99 headlights, still has the stock hood. The car had a full paint correction, full paint job back in 2018. And I do have a 99 front bumper that I'm going to be putting on at some point. Just do your research, find the best car you possibly can. Find something that's solid, hopefully like not crazy modified. And if it is modified, make sure it's like documented and it was built well. I would honestly suggest lowering the car, putting wheels on it, getting a nice interior, and just sending it. Like, it's a great car. I mean, it has decent power stock. You can open it up and get a good amount of power on a stock setup, but I think for these cars going forward, the parts are just getting so astronomically expensive that it's better just to keep them stock, just so you can like enjoy driving it. Like, this car is honestly stressful for me to drive. It's too nice. I know every single nick and scratch and everything on the car. The clutch is pretty damn heavy. I'll drive this and then I'll get into my Focus SVT and I'll go to push the clutch and I feel like I'm pushing my foot through the floor. But yeah, no, I do your research. Definitely have decent mechanical inclination and should be fine. These are great cars. Like they have a bad rap because people mod them and they hammer on them, they beat the crap out of them and don't do regular maintenance, and they are tough to work on. You have a lot of guys in the community, especially in SoCal, they're all really tight, hang out a lot. I don't live in Orange County anymore, but beforehand I used to hang with like Adrian, Brian, and like all those guys, Joe, and we always used to hang at my house and have meets all the time. So as far as community goes, it's really good. The online support, the forums, 3si.org is awesome, great source of knowledge. The Facebook pages are really, really good, like really pretty good people, especially a lot of the OGs. The car itself, I mean, it's rare. It's one car that you'll own, and everybody all the time always tell me about my car. The first thing is like, man, I never see these. I've never seen one this clean, and I've never seen one actually modded this clean. I'm like, all right guys, my name is Alex. This is my 97 3000GT VR4. You can find me on Instagram at AR_VR4. Currently building an S15. I have my 3000GT, I have my 05 Duramax, Focus SVT, my D2 square body, and then my Civic.